Thank you, Deputy Speaker. It is a tragic day for all of us, but none more for Peta's family. So I'd like to start by particularly acknowledging her husband Rod, parents Bob and Jan, sisters Jodie and Penny, nieces, nephew and friends who loved her. My heart goes out to them today. I hope they can find some comfort and solace in the many wonderful stories they are hearing in today's motion. I also want to particularly acknowledge the pain of my parliamentary colleagues, her broader ALP family and her staff and her constituents. It is a loss to all of them. It has been an education and a privilege to listen today to the words in the House commemorating the life of Peta Murphy, the member for Dunkley. One of my favourite bits of being an MP is bringing together primary school students from some of the different schools in Wentworth and discussing leadership with them. I always ask them, what are the qualities they think are important in a leader? And I'm always impressed with the results. There is a lot of wisdom in years 5 and 6. Consistently, they talk about 5 key qualities: determination, kindness, fairness, humility and courage. The tributes today have highlighted how Peta Murphy had all of those qualities. The primary schools of Wentworth, the primary students of Wentworth, would recognise her as one of their own, one of the good ones. Many of this House have acknowledged that what she achieved as a staffer, a lawyer, a local member and as a parliamentarian. I particularly want to pay tribute to her in 2 areas from her work in this place: her advocacy for women's health and on gambling reform. As has been quoted in many speeches today, Peta said in her first speech that she was neither unique nor alone in her experience of cancer. But it is how she stepped above the pain of her own personal experience, how she used it as a fuel to the fire to make a difference to people like her across the country, that has inspired so many of us. Her work as the chair of the Social Policy Committee and the author of the report, You Win Some, You Lose More, was inspiring equally. She brought broad recommendations to truly address the social harm inflicted on so many in this country by gambling. She took on vested interests, worked with some of our most vulnerable community members, and with curiosity, open-mindedness and a deep sense of fairness, brought to Parliament inspiring recommendations. I think it must be the legacy of this Parliament and a responsibility of all of us to take up the mantle, to take up the challenge that she laid down to us when she was sick and implement those recommendations this term. She had all those wonderful qualities the Wentworth kids like: determination, kindness, fairness, humility and courage. But you shouldn't get the impression she was a killjoy. As so many have highlighted today, she was also fun, mischievous and hilarious. In my family, one of the greatest insults you can make is accusing another one of the family of taking themselves too seriously. No one could accuse Peta of that. In a memorable moment for me, I expressed my concern to her after hearing her cancer diagnosis. She looked at me quizzically with raised eyebrows like, what's the big deal? And proceeded to change the subject. She was more interested in making a difference than reflecting on her own challenges. I didn't know her well, but I have been inspired by her actions, her words and her example, by her desire to rise above the general grubbiness of politics so often, to play the ball, not the person, by the words of her maiden speech. This Parliament is a cauldron of Australia's national conversation, and politicians are not just participants in it, we are its custodians and we must do better. We must do better. And even in her death, I think she is strengthening our democracy and our Parliament. There is real grief in this place today, across the Parliament, not just in the Labor Party. And in that grief, I think we have done 3 things. We have reflected on character, on her character in particular, and what we can learn from her example. We have reflected on her achievements, what it means to serve here, and what we must passionately seek to change, as she's passionately sought to change things. And we have listened to each other across the Parliament, and I think have been surprised by the stories and shared experiences and the common feeling, and I believe have come closer to each other in our humanity and in our grief. I hope we take all these lessons forward, and in doing so, we become better leaders and really honour her legacy. On that note, I would like to finish with a poem by John Donne. one which speaks to our shared humanity and the grief that we're all feeling. No man is an island entire of itself. Each is a part of the continent, a part of the main. If a clod be washed away by the sea, Europe is the less, as well as if a promontory were, as well as if a manor of thy friends or of thine own were. Any man's death diminishes me, because I am involved in mankind, and therefore never send to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. Vale, Peta Murphy.